So today's episode is a special one because we're in front of a live studio audience of one. Maria at, what's your at?
Maria Carla X3.
Maria Carla.
X3, damn, I haven't heard that since the MySpace days.
But also you can follow my legal page, Ray is legal.
Ray is legal.
He is.
Oh, Ray is legal.
Ray is.
Yeah,
Ray is legal.
Reyes. Ray is legal though, he just turned 18.
Is he?
Yeah, so if you guys are interested,
hit him up.
Follow him.
Hey man, you alright?
No man, I just came out of the fucking cold plunge. I was in there for 60 minutes.
60 minutes?
Yeah.
That's nothing. I'm there for 2 hours every morning.
Wow man, yeah, some tiny balls then.
So they say.
What's up guys? Today we're discussing saunas, cold plunges, all that hullabaloo.
Super hot right now.
I hate this guy. So
It is though.
yeah, it is super hot. It's also super cold. Anyway, as usual, I'm Victor, and that's Julian. I'm not letting him introduce himself anymore. And we're here by La Vaquita. We're here by Tony's Pizza in B-Fit Miami Lakes.
Palm Springs North, baby.
We're not next
Representing.
to a dump. We're not next to any sort of garbage or dump or anything like that.
Nope. So for a lot of today's episode, we're going to be referencing Andrew Huberman, who, if you guys don't know, I don't know what rock you've been hiding under, but he is like the go-to guy for anything neuroscience or any of these health hacks. So a lot of his protocols have to do with heat and cold exposure. So we're going to be talking about him. And another researcher called Dr. Rhonda Patrick, who also has great information. So the reason I want to start with that is because we're not scientists, you know? I mean, I don't know about you. Maybe you could be a scientist on your day off, but yeah. There are people that are experts in this, and we tend to get the information from them, from the research that they're doing, and we just try to make it practical for you guys. So speaking of Huberman, check this clip out.
Back into the sauna for 20 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes in the cold plunge, sauna for 20 minutes, back into the cold plunge, 3 to 5 minutes, 20 minutes into the sauna, very hot, 3 to 5 back into the sauna, 3 to 5 plunge.
Oh, do you have a day job?
And that's a great clip because this is something that, like, seriously, who has time for all that? It's the same as if people tell you, wake up at 6 a.m. and do the cold plunge, go in the sauna, do all this, answer your emails, drink your coffee. I'm like, bro, I got clients. Like,
I mean, the good folks that listen to this podcast, like, they're not doing anything else, right?
Yeah, Will can do it.
Yeah, they're probably just
if you work from home, you could do it.
Faking their remote job and watching YouTube and TikTok.
I've seen some people, like the new thing is this is completely irrelevant, but you're gonna like it, trying to get away with doing nothing at their job.
Yeah,
like,
I've seen that. I've seen that too.
Okay.
There's a guy that worked
at Amazon?
for Amazon, yeah, he's like 8 months and I haven't done a single thing. Let's see how long. Probably shouldn't put that online. All right, but seriously, obviously nobody has time for all of that, nor do you need to do so much. But what we want to get down to is what are the benefits of cold exposure or cold immersion and heat, and how long do you have to do it? Like, is it even beneficial? Who should be doing it? Who should stay away from that? So that's what we're going to get into today. Let's rock and roll.
Is it worth it? Let me work it.
You're going to put your thing down?
I'll flip it and reverse it if that's what the good people want.
I'm not going to do that.
You thought about it.
Sure.
If you say
You
it,
know what
I'll
she really
reverse
says,
it.
right?
Say it and I'll reverse it.
That was terrible. So first we're going to discuss the cold.
We're going to discuss it? Okay, let's do that.
So first let's discuss the cold plunging or cold immersion, and then we'll go into the sauna and heat. So we'll take it one at a time. So cold plunge, what is it?
It's when you go into the Scandinavian waters and you submerge yourself in there, right? It's
Like Wim Hof?
Like
You know
Wim Hof, of course, the Wim Hof
boy.
method. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
You've been doing that for years.
Well, I don't know. I haven't been doing it, but
No, I know.
about
You've been
it.
talking about them. No, but that's basically when you submerge yourself from the neck down, right?
Typically, but some people do full submersion. That's crazy.
Head down?
Usually it's from the neck down.
I don't go underwater anymore. I got an ear infection last time I did that.
Ask me what a cold plunge is.
Ask her about my wiener. What's a cold plunge? What's a cold plunge?
So it's when you set your phone, you put Instagram Live, and then you put ice inside a bucket, and then you make sure you're recording yourself. Right?
What happens if you don't record it?
No. You have to record it. This has to go on Instagram.
But what if I don't tell my friends about it?
No. I have to tell everybody that I'm doing these cold plunges.
Okay.
I'm a man's man.
Okay, that's
I
good.
can tolerate shit.
That's good.
So you put your phone down and you get in. Oh, you try to be
right?
Of course. You try to be a badass and like act like you're not dying in there.
Yeah. You fluffed before?
Of course. And you just hang out in there for 5 minutes.
I usually do like 2 minutes, but then I'll do it in slow motion. That way people can think I'm in there longer.
That's smart. And then your shivering looks like...
Shivering looks less. I'm like...
But seriously, this is actually, doing the research for this podcast, I realized that people have been doing this for a very long time, like ancient times. Yeah, obviously big in the Nordic traditions, but also like the ancient Egyptians and even Greeks. Apparently Hippocrates, who's like known as like the father of medicine or whatever, he was big into cold immersion as a form of like healing and treating certain ailments. So I found that interesting.
Where do the Egyptians get their cold plunge? I just picture them in like sandy desert, and is it?
I have no idea.
Is it
I'm
ignorant
just
of
telling you
me?
what ChatGPT told me.
Is it ignorant of me to not think they had ice?
That's a good question. Where did...
How the fuck did they make
If you're
ice?
an anthropologist or
Yeah.
historian, comment below. I know we have a lot of you guys listening.
Yeah, where did the Egyptians
Where
get
do the
their
Egyptians
ice?
get their ice?
They brought it down from the Nordic Isles.
So they brought it down from the Nordic Isles, I've been
Damn.
told.
They
How'd
brought
bring
the
it down?
ice. They had coolers back then.
Yeah, they put it in their igloo. They put it in their Yeti, and they would transport it on camelback. And they all walked. So besides showing your friends what a badass you are, what are some of the actual effects of the cold plunge?
So when you're exposing yourself to something so extreme like that, the body's obviously going to react in a pretty extreme way to counteract what's happening, right? So first thing that happens is vasoconstriction, or just like the thinning of your blood vessels to get blood out of your extremities and into like your internal organs. The body's basically trying to survive and maintain its temperature, right? Its internal temperature. So that's one of the things you'll notice right away. One of the things it does is it reduces inflammation. That's one of the big benefits and why people use it like post-exercise or even like to treat injuries. But as we're gonna discuss, treating or stopping inflammation isn't necessarily the best thing that you wanna do post-exercise, and we're gonna discuss exactly why. But just for the effects, that's one of the effects that it does. It
Kills your gains.
actually might. Something you'll feel immediately is it stimulates your nervous system, so you'll feel like adrenaline and norepinephrine, like those flight or fight hormones or neurotransmitters, be released. So that obviously leads to alertness. Like there's no way you don't jump in water and feel completely alert.
Yeah.
Like it's gonna wake you up for
Yeah.
sure. It creates shivering, which actually increases your metabolic rate. Because think about it, if your body's doing this,
Burning calories?
you actually are. You're burning a lot of
Okay,
calories.
good to know.
And
rest of the
because
podcast.
of that, it actually lets you regulate your blood sugar.
That's cool.
Yeah, so it's like a metabolic booster basically while you're in there.
Do people with lower body fat tend to shiver more?
I would think so.
Because I was always a shivering kid.
Yeah, I'm a shiverer too.
Yeah, you're a pussy.
Well, so they say. And then the other interesting thing is it actually improves your dopamine or increases your dopamine levels post plunge. Like now while you're in there, you're not gonna be in there all jolly.
Hey guys.
But whatever your baseline is, you'll go up a notch. This is something that Huberman talks about as soon as you get out, which is one of the reasons why people love to do it, and especially in the morning. It'll wake you up, make you feel alert, but then you kind of like, you carry that little boost, that little dopamine boost with you for a little bit. So now let's get into the research. What does the research say? And again, we're not researchers and we don't really have the time to go into deep dives, but we at least do enough of an analysis that we can give you like what's out there. And then of course I would encourage everybody to go out and do their own research. But before you just take a claim just at face value, because right now when things get popular, every gym has a cryotherapy chamber, everybody's doing cold plunges. Of course it's gonna be sold as like the hottest thing, and every benefit is gonna be exaggerated, right? I always like to ignore all that and go into actual like PubMed and see what the research shows, or follow some people that understand the research and can regurgitate a little bit better. And that being said, the research with cold plunges, it's like kind of hard to do research, and there's no real like good randomized control trial that they've done that can tell you, look, this is what it is. So it's mixed. There's a lot of mixed. They've done it with like very small groups of people. So everything those claims, take them all with a grain of salt, basically.
So what you're saying is this is not the ultimate recovery method that people make it out to be.
Definitely not. As a matter of fact, one of the things that the research shows, and there's pretty good data on this, is that it actually blunts a lot of the positive effects of training, especially like weight training, because you got to remember, weight training, you're stressing the body, then the body creates a reaction to that stress, and in that reaction, the inflammation, bringing blood to the muscles. That's where the
where
gains
hypertrophy
are happening.
happens, yeah.
Now, what does the cold immersion do? It stops those things. It stops inflammation, which you might think, oh, that's a good thing. Like, that's what I want to do that so I won't be as sore and I'll feel better. And yeah, you might feel better, but you're actually physiologically slowing down some of those gains. You need the inflammation. You need the anabolic response to training. And the cold immersion actually slows that down.
Cool. So I would definitely say then recommend it for like an elite athlete that has to play like a competitive game one day, then the next. Maybe they could benefit from that. But a regular person that's going to the gym that actually wants to see some muscle building, maybe it's not the best.
Yeah, we're gonna finish as always with recommendations, but that's a great point, and that's exactly how you should be thinking about it. One of the things that the research shows is that it may improve your immune system function, but over long term, right? Actually, acutely, like while you're in there, it suppresses your immune system a little because it's a stress.
Yeah.
You know, it's a stress on the body the same way exercise, the same way that being in the heat. These are all stressors. So what happens is acutely while you're in there, it suppresses immune system function, but then it makes your body a little more resilient over time. And you actually have a better immune system.
Interesting, but not recommended probably while your immune system is low or fighting demons.
Definitely not. That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, don't cold plunge while you feel like you might be getting something.
For sure. I mean, our Cuban moms always tell you that. Mijito, no salgas
Te
frío,
vas a
te vas a
resfriar.
resfriar.
Resfriar. I'm going to put the definition here like I did.
Do not get exposed to the Florida rain in 90-degree weather because you might get sick.
And then go back
It's
into
not the way
air
it works,
conditioning.
Mom. According to our client ECs, you do get sick by being exposed to cold. And then the last thing that the research shows, and there's a lot of like anecdotal, like observational, like a survey type of research to show this, but elevated mood, which isn't a little thing. Like that's a big deal, and I would argue that's the biggest benefit of regular cold plunging is the way you feel. Like, I don't know about you, but I just do cold showers. I don't have a cold plunge. But after a cold shower, you feel fantastic.
Yeah, like I'm a fan of the cold shower too. I was always a warm shower guy.
Our audience doesn't agree.
Our audience hates it, but
It's not pleasant, let's be honest.
no, but the cold shower does wake you up, and you feel that like you said, that
Dopamine.
heightened dopamine. Yeah, like you feel like, oh shit, like I can kind of take on the world right now.
Yeah, and I want to talk about, because what I usually do is I recommend it after exercise when your body temperature is high, you go into that cold shower and
so
you
good.
feel phenomenal. And there's reasons for that. We're going to talk about like switching from hot to cold, because that's another protocol.
Well, that was cool, but let's move on to some heat exposure. What do you have to tell me about that? Saunas, infrared, and the like.
Yeah, so there are different types of heat therapies. There's like steam rooms, there's the traditional saunas, and then there's like infrared saunas, that something that's like popping up a lot more these days. There's also interesting history with this. There's one country that completely like takes credit for
Turkey.
anything sauna related.
It's not Turkey?
Definitely not. I think it's
Oh.
hot enough there. It's a cold one.
Oh.
Did you
Norway?
even read the notes?
I don't read.
This guy.
Finland?
Yes.
See, I read something.
So even the word supposedly, from what I read,
Sauna?
even the word sauna has like a Finnish origin. They're huge. Like in their culture, this is like a really big deal. Like most of them do it.
I'm gonna let you finish, but
So yeah, they've been using it for a very, very long time. They see it as something that like has like healing powers, but they also have it. It's also like a cultural thing over there. They'll do it like socially, or they'll do it to relax. They even use heat, like for example, like doing water births and stuff. Like it's very common to have, which is interesting because my wife just had a water birth in pretty hot water, 100 degrees. And that was great. Like she felt immediate relief when she was going through labor and she got in that water. It was nice. So
the
it
fin
feels
sounds
good.
or something.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's why people do jacuzzis too. Just feels nice.
Are they called the Finns? What do you call them? Just Finnish people.
Finnish is the way that you would say that, but the
Finnish?
Finns, I don't know about that. The Finnish?
Go Finns!
Huh.
So what's up with the
UNESCO.
Turkish bathhouses? Why do they get all the fame?
It's a cultural thing too, in Russia too, where it's just like another place to like socialize. And
Even ancient Greece, I think they used to do that stuff, but there was weird things going on in those bathhouses that were not discussed. So physiologically, what's going on in the body when you expose yourself to this heat?
just like the cold, there's like a shock response, like a heat shock response. But it's almost like the complete opposite of what's happening.
I was gonna say, maybe it's just me, but when I go into a sauna, I feel like that feeling, not the I'm up of the cold. I feel like somebody get me out of here. I'm like melting.
And that's something that you have to be cautious with if you have like low low blood pressure or something like that. There are certain populations that shouldn't get in the sauna, like pregnant women and such. But yeah, you're probably the type that can't be in there for too long.
I wouldn't know.
Never done it?
I've never done it for that long.
You've
Yeah,
probably been in a
No,
jacuzzi.
I like jacuzzis because I get used to it, and you're in water. I don't like that dry feeling of a sauna.
So whereas in the cold, you're bringing blood into the internal organs, you're doing the complete opposite. When your temperature outside is very hot, your body's trying to get rid of heat in the form of
heat.
sweat, and that's why you sweat like that. So it's vasodilation. It's opening up the blood vessels, getting all that out of there. Now what happens is you're sweating. As we all know with sweating, there's some detoxification, which in my opinion is overhyped how much detoxing. Like it's not like you're getting rid of all the bad stuff in your body, but there is a form of detoxing. Of course, you're dehydrating as well. So like I said, it's the opposite of the response for the cold.
Interesting.
Now, what's cool about that is you feel relaxed. Like your muscles feel relaxed. You feel a little bit of like, right? There's something to be said about that. This is why people like to do it post-workout, or they like to do like a nice stretching sessions. Or I even know people that stretch inside the sauna because you're so relaxed.
It is fins with 2 ends.
See, I knew it.
You were right, Vic.
Wow, look at that.
You were right.
The other thing that I learned from Dr. Rhonda Patrick is that you actually release an opioid that actually it gives you like opioid-like effects, so a little bit of like that endorphin release.
Like a psychoactive.
Yeah, and what it actually does is it increases your sensitivity to endorphins in the future. In other words, it'll make it a little bit easier for you to feel like that happy, elevated mood. So imagine if you do this over time, now you can see why
You're
like
more
your
receptive
mood is
to-
exactly.
So what if you do that? That opens you up to the dopamine, and then you do the cold plunge, which is the act like that.
Well,
immediate
that's
feeling
why Hubie does it. That's why he goes back and
Smart
forth.
guy. He's a smart guy.
Hormesis? How the hell do you say that? Producer? Hormesis?
Hormesis.
Hormesis. Holy God.
Hormesis.
I'm just gonna butcher it and say I'm butchering it.
Hormesis.
All right, Hormes.
Hormesis.
Hormesis.
Hormesis. I'm gonna say Hormesis.
So just like the cold plunge, what does the research say about the heat exposure?
So first, there's a lot more robust research when it comes to sauna. That's the first thing I'll say. The other thing is that you have to understand when you say research or what are the benefits, you have to see what the protocols are. There are all different types of protocols that they've done for these studies. So you have to go in and look like how long were they in there? Did they do it every day, right? So just something to keep in mind. A lot of different protocols for each of these studies. Hormesis. One of the more interesting thing is that's been found with heat exposure is a phenomenon known as hormesis.
I knew I couldn't keep it in.
According to our producer, it's hormesis. But it's basically a response, like a defense response that your body, that happens when your body is exposed to mild stress over time, right? So the idea is, like we talked about, heat is a stress to your body. Your body has to react. Constant exposure to that makes you more resilient to future stresses. It's the same thing that happens with exercise. One of the main themes here is that any type of like controlled stress, like we talked about last podcast, like eustress or stress that actually ends up being good for you.
Builds over time.
It's kind of like rough on the body in the moment, and then over time you become stronger because all you're doing is exposing yourself to something and creating a more robust and resilient body.
I'm sure people take that like, just like everything else in life, these little stresses, a smooth sea never made a skilled sailor type of thing,
Yeah, but the problem is you can go too far, which is what a lot of people do. They go too intense, and too much stress isn't good. And like you said, let's say you're sick or you've been struggling with other types of stress, you don't necessarily want to stress the hell out of yourself as well with, the cold and the workout and that. And that's what happens to a lot of these, in like modern life with a lot of these overachievers especially, is that they just try to do too much. And at the end of the day, you need to balance stress with rest.
Yeah.
But I digress.
Yeah, like if you're not resting, if you're not sleeping enough, you're waking up you slept poorly, you had like poor quality of sleep, and you're waking up at 5 a.m. to do your cold plunge, maybe you should just take that extra hour to sleep.
Yeah, all this stuff isn't going to help you if you're overstressed and not well rested. But if you do it correctly, then the little stresses build up over time and you do become more resilient. For example, Wim Hof, he claims to like never get sick. Wim Hof, if you don't know about him, look him up. He's a really interesting character. They call him the Iceman.
How would you spell that?
Wim?
Hof.
Just look it up.
Useless. Useless.
Wim?
Is it W-Y-M?
I think it's I.
W-I-M?
Yeah. He's great too. Really nice guy.
Shout out to Wim.
There are cardiovascular effects, better blood flow and things like that. There's actually, they've done studies, I believe on the Finnish as well, that people that do the fins, that go fins. People that do constant sauna have less of a chance of like cardiac arrest and things like that. So that's pretty interesting. Like you got to be careful with studies like that. I would bet that those people eat healthier, a little bit more health
Exercise,
conscious.
that's what I was gonna say,
They're not
yeah.
just going in a sauna and then being a complete pig in the rest of their life.
Well, I don't know.
In
See some
Finland?
slobs. Oh, not in Finland.
No, in Finland.
Not in
like-
Finland, 'cause I was gonna see some slobs in the sauna.
No. Now we're not talking about the
Perverts?
people in Hialeah that are in there with
The
the
people with the towel on.
towel.
Like this.
I love the idea of people that go to the gym just to go in the sauna.
I love that.
That's so funny.
I feel like those guys like to expose themselves. That's what that
Huh.
comes from. Like you just want to.
To make a
Sorry,
One
Wim.
half.
Sorry, Wim. It's
Wow, one half.
Wim half.
One
of
win,
half.
one half.
You wim some, you half some.
This guy's out of here.
She liked it.
So there's also brain benefits to being in the sauna. Less like chance of cognitive decline, things like that. Neurogenesis. It helps with like the production of neurons and things like that. So it's good for brain health.
I'm sure it's a very minor. Like you're not gonna reverse your brain's age or
No, but it's
or your chances of dementia.
like everything we talk about in this podcast. It's like the accumulation of a lot of these little things. You know, like no one thing is gonna, prevent you from aging and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But doing a lot of them is gonna compound.
Yeah, but hopping from thing to thing, like people like to do, is definitely not the preferred method with
And
any of these things.
That's a great point. Like we always say, pick something and stick to it consistently. Like let's say you are gonna do sauna, then do it 2-3 times a week, but do it because you're not gonna get any benefits from doing it once.
Yeah.
Like you get very little benefits. You gotta
are like,
expose your body to things.
Oh, I had a cruise coming up. I'm gonna hop in the sauna so I can sweat off these pounds. And it's like, well,
It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, you don't lose fat when you sweat. It's a misconception.
so
Should
why
we
am
do
I
a whole-
wearing a sweatsuit in my car?
Should we do a whole podcast on that?
Sweating? Yeah.
Comment below.
Yeah. Let's do one
Sweating
about
doesn't help
sweating.
you lose weight.
Sweating.
Just dehydrates you.
Crazy that in this day and age, I still see people in garbage suits walking outside.
Oh yeah. There's also things like growth hormone release with Sauna Use. I didn't know that. Like research backed, like a good amount. So that's pretty interesting.
Is there any difference between we live in Miami, in case you guys didn't know. Is there any difference between being out in the heat, like in the regular sun, when sometimes it's like 100-something degrees, from being in a sauna in a controlled temperature?
It's more the stress is more acute when you're in a small room, right? Like your internal temperature will rise faster, but actually there isn't a lot of difference between like just being hot. There are days where it feels almost like a sauna out there. Now, and then with the humidity, it's like different than like a more dry heat. So there's differences there, but you do get a little bit of similar benefits, which is why, like let's say an endurance athlete who's gonna do a race in the heat, they need to acclimate themselves because of that. Because you might be well trained, but you live in like high altitude or something. You come down here and you run a marathon. It's a totally different animal. Your body's sweating more. It's not used to the rise in temperature, so you have to acclimate yourself.
We see it all the time in like American football. When people come play the Dolphins or they come play the Buccaneers from New England and stuff, they come down here and you see them suffering, especially in the summer months. They go through it.
It's
That's
brutal.
why. Yeah, I mean that's why you see like those fans with the like little ice things coming out. Yeah, it's bad.
You have to, now that we're on that topic, you have to understand that the rise of body temperature, your body doesn't function optimally. Let's say when you're doing an athletic endeavor or exercise, it's not optimal for your temperature to be that high. Like your body likes to be at a certain temperature, like for homeostasis. So the reason I say that is because, for example, all these heat things like hot yoga and like HIIT classes are popping up and like infrared saunas. And first of all, I think it's the dumbest thing in the world. Because why? Because people feel like they're dying. But because you feel like you're dying doesn't mean that you're doing more work and exercise. You're actually making the body work harder. Now I know what everybody's thinking. Isn't that a good thing that your body works hard? It's not. That's not how. So when you exercise, I don't want to go into too much of a tangent, but you want to get the benefits of the exercise. You want to put as much effort and work into the exercise, not put yourself in a scenario where it's like breathing through a straw because it's harder. Yeah, but that also means you're putting a lot less effort into the thing that's going to give you gains. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. It's like, oh, I want to make these bicep curls harder. Let me do it on top of a freaking balance beam. Like, it's
not helping your cause.
Helping
Harder
the bicep
isn't
curl.
better necessarily. And then what happens with
Some people might argue that. But
well, what happens with the whole idea was with the whole American football thing, right? Like when you're playing sports, the idea is not let's see how much I can sweat and how exhausted I could be. No, the idea is how much can I perform with every play, right? So what you want is you want to be in a better climate, like a climate controlled, especially for you guys listening to this. When you're working out, you want to be in it as much of a controlled environment, climate, so that you're not making your body work unnecessarily hard. Now, once you're done exercising, by all means, hop in the cold plunge, hop in the sauna. That's when you want to stress your body in a different way, but not while you're exercising.
Yeah, it makes sense because you're not trying to actively, you're not trying to build muscle. You're just trying to, and at that point, just you're done.
Relax or exactly. Yeah. Now, on that same note, we're still talking about the research. What the research shows, this was really interesting, is that exercise plus sauna gives you, in this particular study, it was endurance exercise. So that combination gave you more gains, more endurance during the exercise than just the exercises alone. So they compared the two groups. So the people that did the exercise and then hopped in the sauna, the next time they went in, they were able to I don't know if it was running or another endurance thing, but they were able to do it longer. So that's cool.
Yeah, it is cool.
And remember, we're talking about sauna here, so it's not the same for cold.
Yeah, we switched on you guys if you didn't catch that.
The last thing I'll talk about with the research is the detoxing, right? So there is research that you get rid of heavy metals, things like phthalates, I believe is how you pronounce that, which is basically microplastics that, I don't know if you guys know, but they're in everything. They're in our clothes, our furniture,
they're in our
food.
balls, aren't they?
They're in our balls, yeah.
Not these.
No, yeah, and they're in our testicles.
Our testes.
So you get rid of some of that with sauna. Now, this is where I would argue that it's not as much as people might think. So you'd have to do a little bit more research, but you do get rid of some stuff.
So if I go on a binge and I drink a lot, would you recommend going to a sauna the next day?
No, because you're probably going to be dehydrated.
Fair. No, I don't drink, but I'm asking for my friends.
All right.
Practical advice. Now it's time for practical advice.
Yeah.
We nailed it, finally. Here's a segment we call it Just the Tips.
Okay. You want me to start?
Yeah.
So the first thing I would say is the whole point of this stuff is you don't have to torture yourself, right? Do something pick a modality or a protocol or a therapy that feels that you feel good in, right? If it's sitting in a sauna or in a steam room.
Obviously, you feel good enough or good after or something, because you're not going to feel good. Nobody feels good doing these uncomfortable things, I would say, especially the first time.
But that's my point is that let's say you don't want to jump into a pool of ice because that's very extreme, but a cold shower should suffice. And now, mind you, it's not the same type of, you do need to be in cold, pretty cold water, at least 60 degrees or so, or colder, Fahrenheit. But a cold shower is a good way to start, is what I mean. So if you don't feel comfortable jumping into an ice cold water, just do it with a little bit of a colder shower, you know? And then if you like the heat stuff better, and again, it's you can go into a relatively hot steam room, or you can go into a really hot sauna. Start light and acclimate yourself first.
Yeah, it's like getting into a jacuzzi, you know? You don't jump in, you dip a foot, then your other foot, little by little.
Yeah, so the reason I say that is because people always feel they have to do stuff they hate. Same with diet or exercise, oh, I have to eat this broccoli every day, which I hate, or salad. It's not necessarily. There are different ways to still get some of the benefits.
Without hating yourself.
Without hating yourself or hating the thing. Because if you hate it, although I will say, I follow a lot of people who do cold plunging. I don't know many people that are pumped to get in there, even after doing it for months. It's not pleasant.
That's what I'm saying. It's not something you're going to enjoy inherently, but if you feel good after, then maybe that's something you should continue doing. But like you said, there's things that you completely, your body says, I'm not comfortable in there, don't do it.
Yeah, I definitely lean towards the heat. I can take a lot more heat. I don't know if it's because we're born in the Caribbean, but I am not good with the cold.
Oh no, we are.
I'm a shiverer.
Yeah, we are not cold people.
But I look at it as more of a challenge, which we're gonna get into why it's important as far as from a mental challenge, and why if it's scary that might actually be a good thing. But that's the way I see it. It's okay, nobody likes the idea of a cold shower, but doing it and being able to tolerate it and then getting out, you're all right, now I feel good.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so when it comes to cold plunge recommendations, I would only recommend. Okay, so let me backtrack here.
Don't pee in it.
As we said before, it's not good post-exercise, especially weight training, right? So I would definitely not do this right after your workout. It's gonna blunt a lot of those gains that you want and effects in your body that you want. So the only way that I would view this as, let's say, an athlete or a competitor or something like that, is if you have multiple bouts, like let's say you're I don't know how you would do this practically, but let's say you're like a CrossFitter, right? And you're doing Wadapalooza, and you have your event number 1 at 9 a.m. and then you have event number 2 at 12, like at noon. After your first event, hop into a cold plunge. That's gonna get you better prepared for the other event. Because at that point, you do wanna minimize damage. Yeah. You're not doing that for gains. You're doing it to just, let's see how good I can perform, right? So it's really good for like or let's say you're doing a jiu-jitsu competition or something like that. You have multiple competitions on the same day. You could do it in between to kind of blunt those effects. That's a perfect way to do it. The other way that I would do it is do it on your non-workout days or do it in the morning. If you do it like that, you're gonna get all the good effects without any of the bad. But if you do it right after training, that is no bueno. How would you do it?
Wouldn't.
Count me out.
No, but honestly, if we had a more convenient method, I would want to do it. I would want to try a cold plunge.
Dude, it sucks.
Yeah, I know.
It sucks. Like I'll give you props to all those Instagram people that go in there and like relax and don't even make a. Because I would go in there.
I've been in cold water up to here, and you can't
breathe. Yeah. And like I alluded to earlier, one of the big benefits of this, the reason why I would do it and I would recommend it, is for the mental resilience, mental strength part of it. In other words, you get up in the morning and you force yourself to get into like ice cold water for 3 minutes. Like that's a pretty, like after that, you're gonna be pretty confident. You're gonna walk around like, wow, I really did that, you know? So like we always talk about putting yourself in different challenges and having obstacles deliberately is gonna make you more resilient mentally.
Do you ever wake up and shower?
No, I'm not that kind of guy. I already shower twice a day, which honestly is overdoing it. You're not supposed to shower that much, by the way. That's a different caveat.
And you still stink.
I'm a stinker, man. But
I shower once a week, and I think I smell all right.
Yeah, that's probably healthier.
Yeah.
But anyway, my point being that why would I shower? And I know a lot of people shower in the morning and it wakes you up and all that, but why would I shower in the morning when I'm about to work out and I have to shower after my workout and then I have to shower at night?
Plus, I just showered right before bed, yeah.
Yeah, so it's already 2 showers a day anyway. But yeah, I'm not the shower in the morning kind of guy.
Me neither.
But dude, people like Joe Rogan, they go in the cold plunge every morning. Like that's the first thing they do. They get out of bed, I eat half asleep, no coffee, nothing, just boom, into 50 degrees.
Whether you like him or not, and how you feel about him, his opinions, his views, the guy's freaking consistent,
he puts
man.
in the
with
work.
His workouts, with his BJJ, with all of that shit. He is consistent.
I mean, how many people with $200 million in the bank would get up in the morning and jump in the cold plunge?
I'll wake up and pod.
Yeah, like he doesn't need to do any of those things. I see what you're saying.
He looks like a rotisserie chicken, according to Theo Vaughn, but...
That's such a good clip.
Yeah.
Protocols. According to our boy Hubie, Big Daddy Huberman, he recommends 11 total minutes per week, right? So 11 minutes split between 2 to 4 sessions, okay? So that equals to like 2 to 3 minutes a session.
Usually how long it lasts anyway.
Oh, perfect. I know that some people like to go longer, but in the beginning, you definitely want to like ease your way into it. And like I said, you don't have to go into like 50 degrees. You can start with a cold shower. You can start with like a 60 degree or something like that. But you do, I think that the criteria is it has to feel uncomfortable. Like you have to be like kind of shivering. You got to get that effect of, wow, I'm in really cold.
What if you're really, really adverse to it, but you want to try it? Is it okay to like just put your feet in?
Yeah, actually. Okay. You're not going to get the same effect because you're not getting like total body. Sorry, folks. But
I know I know somebody that had to do therapy on her foot, and they had her submerge her feet in ice cold water, and she said she couldn't even do that. Like she's like, no.
Have you ever done that? That's super uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Have you seen that Stanford glove that they made a few years back?
Like cryo glove?
Yeah. So it's a glove that, because your hands, you can fact check me on this, but I'm pretty sure your hands is one of the extremities that like it'll translate to like full body like quickly.
Toes and hands, I think it is.
Exactly. So they basically had this. It was created for athletes for the reason that I said, basically to like help them recover in the middle of a game or something. And it's like your body temperature is high. Put the glove on. It cools you, and then you're ready to go again.
I would put it on for a little bit, give myself a stranger, and then
there you go.
Yeah, just figure that out.
That's a good idea. Yeah, you have to be quick. But you say you only last 2 minutes.
As usual.
Perfect. All right, so sauna practical tips. in my opinion, from what I've seen, the sauna has
The
more.
sauna, jacuzzi, in the back row at the movies.
Huh. Interesting.
Some people say.
Ludicrous would say. The sauna has more benefits, at least from what the research shows, than the cold, which is, I'm sure people are relieved because I would say the sauna is a little bit more comfortable.
Welcoming,
Yeah,
for sure.
Definitely gravitate. If you had to pick one, I would probably pick the heat.
Not to mention, there's been a lot of research kind of going against ice from what we said. Like it blunts your
Yep.
gains and all that stuff.
Even with like therapy, remember how they used to? I mean, there's
That's what
a
I'm
whole.
saying. That's what, and I was going to go to that. The rice guy, even the guy
rice.
that invented rice, which is rest, ice,
Compression,
elevation for when you're
Doesn't-
injured. That guy went back on that. So like you see some people that are still believing in that, and like we have clients that come in like,
I need to ice
sprained
my ankle.
I'm gonna ice my ankle, and I'm like, well, hold on there. Like now they're recommending heat.
Inflammation is good when it comes to healing.
Yeah. So now, like you said, I guess heat is
Heat
higher
is king.
on the, on the hierarchy.
Because it brings blood flow to the area, which is what you want. You don't want to blunt, like what inflammation is the body's bringing attention and blood flow and all these
Yeah.
things to the areas damaged. You don't want to stop that.
It's like a fever. People are like, oh, a fever's bad. No, a fever's your body combating.
Exactly.
It's not-
But there's different forms of inflammation. I don't want to get into too much of a tangent, but if you have like chronic inflammation, then you want to reduce inflammation via all of these therapies. But if you have like acute inflammation, like say you did a lot of bicep curls and you want your biceps to have that inflammation response, that's a good thing. If you sprained your ankle and you have inflammation, that's a good thing. It's your body going to heal it. So anyway.
We probably should have said this earlier. You said the word acute a lot. And besides talking about me, what is the acute inflammation? What are you talking about there?
Acute just means like what's happening in the moment, as opposed to like something that's
Prolonged.
chronic or prolonged. So yeah, when we say acute, it just means like what's happening now.
Okay.
You're an idiot. Specific recommendations. Huberman recommends 7 to 20 minutes. Is it per session? Several times per week. So yeah, per session. 7 to 20 minutes per session in the sauna. Several times a week. I don't think he specified how many times a week. Rhonda Patrick recommends a little bit more, 4 times a week. 20 to 30 minutes at about 186 degrees Fahrenheit. That's pretty freaking hot.
Hot, man.
She's a big proponent of the sauna. Like it's huge. And she's
Haven't
a
seen her in
researcher,
there.
so she saunas.
Haven't seen
Maybe
another sauna.
Maybe not the same one.
Not the
but
Hialeah
she
sauna that I
saunas.
attend.
The other thing I would say is from the little bit of research I did on this specifically, on the different styles of sauna, infrared isn't as good as the others. I'm not sure why. We have to look deeper into that. But you know, the traditional like coal sauna or like even a steam room is a little bit better than infrared.
I think I prefer the steam room too. It's less of a dry feeling.
The other thing I would say, and I've personally done this, and I'll share my anecdote, but going from really cold, actually from really hot to really cold is an unreal experience. Like it feels insane. So that's why like the beginning clip of Hubert going cold to hot to cold. I don't know if you have to go back and forth like that, but I was at a Russian bathhouse once and I did that. I went from really, really hot, jumped into like an ice cold pool, and I kid you not, I had like a psychedelic experience. I went into out of body experience. I had like this, like I felt the dopamine rush. I felt like euphoric. It was a super cool feeling. And then of course, once you get out of there, you feel like $1,000.
Picture you in the pool like the Nirvana baby for some reason. That's how I pictured you.
Interesting.
Were you naked?
Same size down there too?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Were you
after the
naked
cold
doing
plunge.
it or no?
No.
I picture a Russian bathhouse, everyone's naked.
Yeah, there was some weird characters in there, but for the most part, it was okay. Have you
The
seen
guy
like
you
how
were
they,
with 1,000% were naked.
at one point, have you seen how they like hit each other with
Yeah.
those big leaf things?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's part of like the Russian tradition.
Palm fronds?
Something like that.
Yeah, I've seen that.
I didn't do that day, but what?
The fins.
The Finns do
Yeah,
it.
the Finns do it.
I would like to be the hitter.
Hmm.
Not the hitty.
Okay, that tells me a lot about you. And then we talked about the other thing I would say as a recommendation is doing sauna after exercise. Like if you're gonna do it, if you're already at a gym that has a sauna, do your workout and then hop in there, do some breath work. Like you're gonna feel amazing and you're gonna get like basically the best of both worlds. But remember, not the cold. Just do that with the sauna.
Nice. Will do.
People ask me questions like, you know, some of the questions that we got from our Instagram were like, does it matter like age? Does age have a difference? Like what are the recommendations based on age? I think that what I would say to that is, first of all, like look up if you have a condition, an autoimmune condition, or you have some sort of like disease. Like do not take the BFit podcast recommendations for that. I'm not sure about the age thing, but what just makes sense to me is like menopausal women, they're already dealing with like a lot of temperature changes.
Yeah.
So I would be cautious if you're menopausal or premenopausal. We're going in there. A lot of, for some reason, women like my wife, they already have like low blood pressure. Like they get low blood pressure kind of relatively easy. You can't spend so much time in heat if you have low blood pressure like that, because it does lower your blood pressure, and after a while you might feel like woozy. Somebody told me this morning that they get like black spots if they, as soon as they walk in there. I'm like, yeah, you probably shouldn't do it then.
No, yeah, it goes back to the thing we said, like, listen to your body. If you go in there, maybe once, that might not be like, but if it happens several times, then maybe that's just not for you.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
And again, like we always talk about on this podcast, like baby steps. Let's say 3 times a week, 3 to 5 minutes, especially with the sauna. With the cold, even less than that.
Yeah.
Like 1 minute.
You probably can't even handle more than that.
Yeah. Although I will say with the cold, when you dunk yourself in, that initial shock is like jarring. But then if you stay there for like a good minute to two, it gets a little bit like easier to handle. And some people report that you don't even feel the cold anymore. I don't know about all that.
I don't know about that.
But some people say that like after a while, they're like, okay, I'm good now.
Now, is there a difference between a sauna and locking myself in my car when it's really hot?
You probably shouldn't do that.
Okay.
So you can breathe.
I used to know.
Well, you knew someone that would lock themselves in their car with
I
the
knew a wrestler
suit,
who would
right?
put a sweater on and he would lock himself in his car in the summer months in Miami to shed weight.
I mean, the MMA guys do crazy, crazy things to make weight.
Yeah, I've
which
seen
I
some
would
of them
not
like,
recommend.
that can barely walk because of how intense and how extreme they've gone through. Because how they do it is stupid. It's a little tangent. They weigh, and then the next day they're at a completely different weight because they're back to their regular weight
They
to fight.
drink the
so
water
it doesn't make any
again.
sense.
Yeah,
Like,
not quite their regular weight, but yeah. I mean, it's
they go up 5-6 pounds.
But that's I would say that's more of a product of the human propensity to like
Extremes.
not cheat, but like game the
Take
system,
advantage,
right?
yeah.
The system is I'm trying to fight at the lightest
Minimum,
weight
yeah.
possible, that maybe I don't sit at that weight year round, but if I can go a little bit down in weight, then I can fight smaller people. So they're gonna try anything that they can to get to that lighter weight.
I don't blame
Because
them.
you don't want to fight the person that's 20 pounds heavier than you. That's gonna suck. So
Yeah, I don't blame 'em.
that's what they do. But yeah, it's very uncomfortable. Is there anything else that we haven't talked about? Anything else that you'd like answered or that we didn't cover? Please, as always.
Leave a comment, we'll reply. We're gonna leave you with Katy Perry's "Hot and Cold" music video right
That's
now.
a good idea.
And we're back. All right, guys. We'll catch you next week on the BFit Pod.
Who's still in the background, right?
Yes, in the background. You're hot and you're cold.